Let us bow in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, first we come this evening thanking you for such a beautiful day.
Thank you.
We thank you for the gift of life.
Yes.
And, oh Lord, we just thank you that you have blessed us to be here in this wonderful city. We thank you that you have placed these men and these women in the positions of leadership, that it is you, oh God, that gives us the authority and the power and place us in the positions that we are in. So we acknowledge you in all our doings. Oh Lord, we pray this evening for this board, for this mayor and every leader of this city, for the chief of police and all of the officers, for the chief of the fire department, all of the firemen, for every person connected in this city that provides the protection, and the guidance, and the leadership for us. Oh God, we pray that this city will be a place of prosperity where all people of all nations and all races can come and find a place to provide for themselves and for their family. Oh God, we just thank you for this wonderful opportunity to be here and to serve you in this capacity. We ask your blessings upon us now as these leaders of this city come together for this business meeting, that every city, every decision that will be made will be the best one for every citizen. We know that sometimes there are tough decisions that must be made. So we pray that you give each board member guidance and direction, and let them speak according to the word that you have given them. In Jesus' name we thank you. Amen.
Amen. All right, you have before you a copy of the written agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written? Alderman Maynard.
Under board business 10, item G, I would like to move it to right before item 12, determination of closed session.
All right, that is the consideration of Starkville Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Plan request for qualifications.
Correct.
All right, proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to move item 10G to be item 12, reordering the remainder of the agenda to accommodate the change. Yeah, Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Item 7, public appearances. I would like to move that to the first item under the newly numbered item 12.
All right, a proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to place a report from the Park Advisory Committee as, you would like that immediately before or immediately after?
Immediately before.
All right, as item number 12. That means what was previously placed as item number 12 would become item number 13, and the agenda would be reordered to accommodate the change. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please note the change. Alderman Maynard, do you have any further proposed revisions?
No, sir.
Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Alderman Little.
I've got one that was on the e-packet agenda line, and I need to add this to under department business, L utilities, number 4. Request approval to issue a notice to proceed to Control Systems, Inc., a sole source for phase 2 of the booster station's remote terminal unit upgrades at booster station number 1 at a cost of $73.60.
Do you have that in writing?
It's on the table.
All right, it has been placed on the table. And are you asking for this to be placed on the agenda and the consent agenda, or just the regular agenda?
On consent, so.
All right, the proposed revision by Alderman Little is to place the following item on the agenda and the consent agenda. That item is the approval of issuing a notice to proceed to Control Systems, Inc., a sole source for Phase 2 of the Booster Station's remote terminal unit upgrades at Booster Station number 1 at the cost of $7,360 as presented. Alderman Little, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Do I hear any objection to placing that matter on the consent agenda? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Little, do you have further proposed revisions?
No, sir.
Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Any further proposed revisions? Alderman Ball.
Upon the L Utility Department, move that to consent agenda number 1.
All right, proposed revision by Alderman Vaughn is to place item 11L1 on the consent agenda. That is the authorization for Russell Hamilton and Jason Horner to travel to Chattanooga, Tennessee for TVPPA utility law class August 18th through 19th for a total cost not to exceed $3,000 with advanced travel. This is a continuation of the TVPPA Certified Power Executive Program. This course reviews the legal problems that can occur in electric utility system management as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Vaughn, do you have further proposed revisions?
No.
Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Are there any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Any further proposed revisions? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is the approval of the consent agenda. Is there, wait, I have. Okay, that's what we're doing. All right, is there any objection to the approval of the consent agenda? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Saying none, the consent agenda as revised has been approved. The next matter that you have before you is announcements and comments by the mayor and members of the board, and I have 3 new employee introductions I'd like to make this time. First introduction I'd like to make is Miss Mary Brooks. Mary is from Crawford, Mississippi, and graduated from B.L. Moore High School. She attended Shelton Fire Academy, earning the rank of EMTB. Mary worked for the Starkville School District as a bus driver before being hired by the city of Starkville. She is the daughter of Willie Brooks and the late Magnolia Brooks. She is the proud parent of a son, Landon. During her spare time, Mary enjoys hunting, fishing, singing, and helping others. Mary is a member of Pine Grove Missionary Baptist Church on Bluff Lake Road. Please join me in welcoming Mary.
Mr. Mayor, may we recognize quickly?
You may.
Miss Mary, Miss Brooks, make sure all those men down there behave now, okay? All right.
The next new employee I'd like to introduce is Miss Rashida Doss. The Starkville Police Department would like to introduce Rashida Doss as one of our new police officers. Rashida is originally from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville High School. She also attended East Mississippi Community College. Before joining the Starkville Police Department, Rashida worked in the Union located on campus at Mississippi State University as a line worker. Rashida is the daughter of Dorothy Boyd and Ray Doss. She has one brother, Nigel Doss. She enjoys playing any kind of sports and is interested in working with the upcoming youth. Rashida and her family attend First John Missionary Baptist Church. Please join me in welcoming them. And now I'd like to introduce Billy Asherbrenner. Billy is originally from Lacey Spring, Alabama. She attended high school at Albert P. Brewer High School in Summerville, Alabama. Billy is a graduate of Auburn University, where she received a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration and Marketing, as well as a master's degree. Before joining the city of Starkville, Billy was the manager for Alabama Media Group and also served as an account associate. Billy is the daughter of Aline Asherbranner. She has one sister, Betty Darnell. Billy enjoys collecting hammered aluminum, spending time with her dogs Levi, an Australian cattle dog, and Tigger, a mixed breed, and listening to Jimmy Buffett. Billy and her family attend Caledonia United Methodist Church. Please join me in welcoming Billy. That concludes my announcements this evening. Are there any announcements and comments by the members of the board? Alderman Nguyen.
Mr. Cody Burnett, will you please come forward, please? This should only take a minute. Yes, that's fine. Mayor and Alderman, on Thursday, I received a telephone call for probably about the third time from a resident that is on Blue Cut Road in the Bluefield community, which is out of the city limits. And they were alleging that we're responsible for some overgrown trees and very large grassy area. And Cody, on Thursday, myself, along with our city engineer, Mr. Kemp, who is not here tonight, you and myself, we went to the home of that resident that was alleging that, and we've explained that we're not responsible for that because that is based in the county, based on what you and the engineer have, Mr. Engineer Kemp, have provided to me. Will you show us that on the map, please?
I will. This is an official City of Starkville map, and the road of concern is just southwest of the city limits, which are indicated in red. This is Blue Cut Road, and it is in yellow, which according to our legend is a county-maintained road. The address of interest was approximately in this area, just west of Murdoch Lane, which is right here, about a quarter mile outside the city limits.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barnett.
You're welcome.
For those residents that have called me and you've expressed concern about that, it is not a city property. It is not within the city limits of Starkville, and being a city entity, we don't have the jurisdiction or the authority to address any of those needs. I'm respectfully asking that you contact the county officials for this. Thank you so much, Mr. Barnett.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I yield the floor at this time.
Any further comments from the members of the board? Alderman Mayor.
Mayor, I went to vote today at North Starkville at the fire station, and if you vote at North Starkville at the fire station, you probably realize that that pole is not air conditioned, and it's 100 degrees today. I want to just let this board know that over the next few months, I would like to look at opportunities for us to locate air-conditioned and heated polling stations throughout the city, whether we consolidate to one location or whether we identify other locations. But the poll workers there were certainly suffering today due to the extreme heat. We'll be looking at some options there that would be agreeable to this entire board.
Are there any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move now to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening, my name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. I would just like to address that we have very concerns that people are on edge now. They're quick to get upset. So let's try to do our best to keep people from getting violent out of hand if you can at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Are there any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, the next matter that you have before you is a public hearing. It is a public hearing on a conditional use for the Starkville-Oktibbeha County School District for the placement of educational facilities at Armstrong Middle School. Mr. Sanders, would you like to introduce this matter? And Alderman Walker is going to recuse himself from this matter.
The Starkville Consolidated School District is requesting the use of 2 mobile classrooms at Armstrong Middle School due to an unforeseen classroom issue due to consolidation. Dr. Holloway has stated that the mobile classrooms would be used for 2 to 3 years and would essentially house 2 classrooms. It went before the Planning and Zoning Commission at a special call hearing last Wednesday with a recommendation of approval with no conditions.
Are there any questions or comments from the members of the board for Mr. Sanders? Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Sanders. I'll now ask, are there any comments from the members of the public on this matter? Any comments from the public on this matter? Any comments from the public on this matter? Seeing none, that will conclude the public hearing on a conditional use for the Starkville-Oktibbeha County School District for the placement of educational facilities at Armstrong Middle School.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
may I request that we move item 11B2 to take place right now while Alderman Walker is recused, so he doesn't have to recuse again.
All right, without objection, Alderman Maynard has proposed reordering the agenda to place item 11B2A as a new item 10A and reordering the agenda to accommodate the change. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision to the agenda?
Yes.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Seeing none. All right, motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of conditional use requests for educational facilities at Armstrong Middle School as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Alderman Perkins.
Mayor, the gentleman from 5 has some specific language that would be very appropriate for this. If he's reducing right, I think you want to be recognized, gentlemen?
Yeah.
All right, Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak?
Two questions before. Mr. City Attorney, do we need to ask Alderman Walker if he was gonna recuse for this issue before we go forward with it?
His plan, he told me before the meeting that he was going to recuse for the whole thing, the public hearing and the deliberation of this issue.
And Alderman Little, I would offer a friendly change to your amendment, to have it read, move approval of CU 15-09 conditional use request by the Starkville School District for the placement of temporary educational facilities at Armstrong Middle School on the finding of fact that proposed use is necessary to officiate the placement of 6th grade students at Armstrong Middle School pursuant to the requirements of consolidation of the Starkville School District and Oktibbeha County School District, that the proposed uses meets the 5-step criteria in Appendix A, Article 5, Section 1 of the City Code of Ordinances, and upon the following conditions, that the conditional use be limited to educational purposes and not any residential use, and that the conditional use expire September 1st, 2017. I've reduced that to writing if that's acceptable.
All right.
Amendment.
Alderman Little, I think the easiest course for us here, provided this is what you want to do, is to treat this as a rescind and restate. Do you wish to rescind and restate your motion as was reduced to writing? All right, so without objection, Alderman Little is going to rescind and restate the main motion, which was just read and has been reduced to writing. So without objection, I won't reread it. Seeing no objection, is there any objection to Alderman Little rescinding and restating his main motion? And to be clear, Alderman Nguyen, you seconded that motion, so it would be recorded that this is the main motion with Alderman Little as the person making the motion and you as the person making the second. Seeing no objection, the motion has been rescinded and restated. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Chief, could you let Alderman Walker know that we finished discussing that matter? The next matter that you have before you is the consideration of the approval of a request for additional grant funds from MDA for Phase 2 construction contract for the parking garage. Ms. Benson, would you like to introduce this matter?
Yes, sir, I'd be glad to. Phyllis Benson, Golden Triangle Planning and Development District. Back in 2010, the city of Starkville received an $8 million grant from the Disaster Recovery Division of the Mississippi Development Authority, and this was to construct a parking garage. And I'm glad to say that we are winding down. Project is almost complete. Hopefully, the developer will begin the hiring of jobs so that he can fulfill his requirement. And as you can tell by all of the activity on that corner, that he is doing an excellent job of spending the matching funds that are required for the project as well. As you might remember, there were 2 construction contracts on this project. The first one is complete and closed out, and the second one is almost complete. And I might add that you've done an excellent job of spending the grant and being a good steward of the taxpayers' dollars. So good that it appears that there might be some cost overruns, and that's why there's a need for the additional $69,755.19. There are representatives here tonight from Copeland and Johns. I know that you had some information in your packet, and I'd like to give you this opportunity to see if you have any questions about why there are cost overruns at this time. And I would also like to say that we can ask for this money, but there is no guarantee that you will receive the money. But, as they say, if you don't ask, you're certainly not going to receive. So I'll let you take the floor.
Discussion. Alderman Maynard.
The representatives from Copeland and Johns, can you just explain, I guess, to the board what the cost overruns include?
Please come forward.
I'm Jason Lee, project manager for Copeland Johns. So the $69,000 is almost entirely a result of some latent conditions that we encountered on the job site this year, mostly due to subsoil conditions. We encountered groundwater there, and it cost some money to work through it. And then the rest was the inclement weather that we had throughout the winter. We just had a cold, wet winter that caused us to have to bed and backfill storm water, domestic water, fire water, sanitary sewer, underground utilities with 610 limestone in lieu of specified dirt, just because we couldn't get in the pits to get dry dirt. So the bulk of it is that. The limestone just costs more money than the dirt. We have checked ahead, and we understand that there are more funds available for this now. Like Phyllis said, there's no guarantee at this time. This is simply a request. What we have on the agenda here tonight is simply authorization to request the additional funds that we understand are currently available.
Further discussion. Alderman Little.
When did you become aware of the overage?
We've been tracking along the entire process and realized that there was a potential for an overage here for the last several months.
Where does that leave us if we're rejected by MDA on this?
With a delta of $69,000.
Back on the city?
No. No, I mean, Plan B would be go to the developer now and seek those funds. We feel fairly confident. We feel really confident about Plan A, but Plan B would be go to the developer, not the city.
Okay. Ms. Benson, how confident are you that this may or may not be approved? You have no idea?
I have
Is
no
there anything
idea.
in
And
the past?
I'll let me just say this from the get-go. Every time we have modified the budget to include a construction manager, to include testing, we've always been told that we'll approve this modification, but there is no more money. There will be no more money. Well, as Jason mentioned, the entire disaster recovery division is beginning to wind down. I mean, you know, Katrina is 10 years behind us. So yes, it is winding down, but for so long I've heard the broken record, there is no more money. You've got to keep it within budget. And, you know, I think, which is why a construction manager was put in place to help coordinate all of the activities and make sure that we didn't go over budget. You know, you can't foresee everything, especially inclement weather, but an outside party has been to MDA to request this money. It's not something that I've done, so I can't with any great deal of certainty say that yes, it is there.
This motion is simply a request to ask for the funds that we understand are there.
Mr. Mann, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Lee, refresh my memory that the city's contribution on this is capped contractually, right? So when you said that you wouldn't go back and ask the city to make up that overage, it's not only that you wouldn't, but you can't contractually. Is that accurate?
I think that's accurate, Chris.
Okay.
Further discussion?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of a request for additional grant funds from MDA for Phase 2 construction contract for the parking garage as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Thank you very much for the explanation, sir.
Any
Thank you, Ms.
discussion?
Benton.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Thank you.
Mr. Lee.
The next matter you have before you is consideration of change order number 5 for Phase 2 construction contract related to the parking garage and realign CDBG budget to reflect the construction change order. Ms. Benson.
There have been 4 change orders approved thus far on the second construction contract. This is number 5, which will deplete the contingency line item, and those items necessitating the change order were listed in your packet. The program guidelines will require that we shift those funds from the contingency line item into the construction line item, and this will pretty much zero out your $8 million project.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of a change order number 5 for Phase 2 construction contract related to the parking garage and realign the CDBG budget to reflect the construction change order as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Thank you. The next matter before you is a request for approval of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Electric Department as of July 30th, 2015, for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2015. Discussion. The motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Electric Department, as of July 30th, 2015, for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2015, as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
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 By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, and I have Perkins and Vaughn against, this motion passes. The next matter you have before you is the discussion and consideration of the job description for the assistant to the mayor and board of Aldermen. Alderman Maynard?
Yes, sir, thank you. get prepared to move into the new city hall, having toured the new city hall last week, and that was the first time I'd had an opportunity to tour it since the walls went up, it became quickly apparent that there are multiple points of entry to the new city hall that are gonna have to be staffed by city personnel in order to direct traffic, assist citizens as they come in, and assist others. So we've got, on the first floor of the new city hall, there are actually two entrances, one to the clerk's suite and one to the general suite that the mouse is pointing over there. And behind that is courts and the new boardroom, which is gonna look really, really nice, by the way. If you hadn't had a chance to tour it yet, please take an opportunity to do that. But then on the second floor, as you go down, there's another open area that has two separate areas as well. One going into the mayor's suite, which is also connected to the CAO suite, which is then connected to the city engineer, and another area at the top that has all of community development. So, in order to be able to meet the staffing needs that we're experiencing with additional growth in community development, in order to meet the administrative needs of the city engineer, the mayor, and the CAO, and others involved, I am just proposing that we accept the proposal that was alternative proposal number 2 in the packet and advertise those positions.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve alternative number 2 that was in the original packet and to advertise for those positions as presented in alternative number 2. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Hold on, let me get through this. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merit? No, sir. Alderman Carver.
I would just, I guess, like for you, or Alderman Maynard, if you explain to the public what that is.
So that, the proposal number 2 is to create 2 positions. One would be a position that is an administrative position that reports to the mayor, the CAO, and the city engineer. The second is an administrative assistant position that reports to the Board of Aldermen and maintains the other city boards and reports to the Community Development Director.
Thank you.
Discussion, Alderman Walker.
I think there is certainly a need for this. The question I have is that as we're moving into budget season, if we're the creation of an additional position, how or where are we looking at the funding to be able to create that position?
So the one position that we already had exists now. Other funds will come from the city engineer's budget that he has available and from community development position that's there. So that's what will make up the difference.
Thank you.
Alderman Carver.
Are both of these at the same grade, or is one gonna be, I know you called them different things, but
One was graded by the personnel as a 10, the other as an 8,
And
based
the-
on the responsibilities.
the 10 is gonna be the,
The one for the Board of Aldermen and Community Development.
okay, thank you.
Further discussion,
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Perkins.
thank you. The cover sheet on this is showing that I requested for this matter to be on tonight's agenda. I think Alderman Maynard has taken sole ownership of this, just want the record and the public to know. I did not request for this matter to be on tonight's agenda, but I think it's clear now, but I just only mention it because the cover sheet shows the vice mayor as being a requesting agent, but it's clear that it's Alderman Maynard's request. Thank you, Mayor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Alderman Maynard's motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 4 in favor with 3 against, This motion passes. The next matter on the agenda is the public appearance by the Parks Advisory Committee. I believe we have Mr. Davis and Mr. Hallberg here to represent the committee. Oh, we've got the whole committee here. I'm sorry.
We're missing Dorothy Isaac and Matthew Rye, both of whom aren't able to be here with us, but everybody else is. So.
And y'all will have 10 minutes to make your presentation. Then I ask you remain for any questions or comments that the board may have at the conclusion.
First of all, let me say thank y'all for the opportunity to participate in this process. I'd also like to thank all of my committee members that came to multiple meetings throughout the spring and summer. They've done a heck of a good job on this. I'd also like to, on the front end, thank the Parks Department and their staff. They were extremely accommodating to our requests for time and/or information. What's being passed out in front of y'all is our report that we're going to make to you. And we took the opportunity to look at the park system as a whole, trying to maintain a very big perspective on it. It's real easy to go out to any one of our parks and pick out something very small and minute and say, well, you need to fix that. But rather than come up with just a list of things, which that's relatively obvious, we tried to look at, well, why are those things that way? As you can see in this report, in the executive summary there, we kept coming back to, whether it was through our tour of the parks or our interviews with park employees or constituency groups or individual parks users, a couple of key points in general that we feel y'all need to address as y'all begin to take this over before y'all can move to the next level and do some really nice things for our parks. The first point is that of communication, both internally and externally. We kept running into, again, going back to the example of, well, why is something not being done? If you talk to an external group that utilizes the park, to say, well, we talked to so-and-so, then you talk to so-and-so, we're like, shrug their shoulders and go, well, you know, actually so-and-so over here is supposed to do that. And then you'd say, well, why isn't so-and-so doing that? I don't know. And you ask, you know. So it becomes a game of, well, they're actually supposed to do it. Well, who tells that person? How does that workflow go through the process? And they just kind of shrug their shoulders, you know. The communication with external groups, we felt like a lot of times there's misunderstandings between groups that try to use the park or specific customers that are trying to use the parks. We also feel like the parks could do a more proactive job in promoting certain programs, particularly to underserved communities within our city on their things. The next point in general, and I'm trying to save room to ask questions because I know we all have a lot of things for election night, y'all's night out, is planning, policies, and procedures, which dovetails with the communication component of it. There are certain plans and policies in place, but we as a group felt that they needed to be reviewed and or updated. There are certain ones that either are not in place or need to be created. Specifically, we'd like to say that the Park and Recreation System Master Plan should be reviewed and or updated. A capital improvement plan needs to be created because there's just too much, it seems to be somewhat willy-nilly running to put out the next fire. A maintenance and operation management standards and procedures, which goes back to our issue that we were talking about earlier, and then also a marketing plan that could, we feel, market parks programs and activities, and particularly if you want to expand into some other things. What we did for you guys is went through, and Matthew Rye helped us tremendously with this through his position at the university, looking at national standards for park and recreation departments. The ones we felt needed immediate attention from you guys, we highlighted in yellow in this report, and I think that they're relatively self-explanatory. Again, these overlap, but to hit the high points, you know, the review of documents, periodic timetable for review of documents, administrative policies and procedures, again, saying the capital improvement plan, risk management plan, maintenance and operation management standards, and a marketing plan. Then you get into that master plan and strategic plan in 2.4 and 2.5. You get into organizational structure, and we feel like as the park system grows, you as a board need to evaluate how your personnel are laid out in an organizational structure. We kicked around this idea multiple times, and we have some observations or recommendations if y'all would like those in the future, and we'd be happy to stick around and talk about specific job performance if y'all would like us to. Again, internal communication, marketing plan, supervision came up repeatedly, and that goes back to that communication issue and accountability for workflow and making sure that things are getting done and maintained in a proper way. We got into, and we know that as y'all move back into the parks integrated back into the city wholly, there are some issues that we think need to be addressed, and we don't want to overload any of your current employees, but we think job analysis for job descriptions within the park would be very helpful for current employees so that they understand exactly what it is they are responsible for, and help start building that accountability within that department. On the financial management side of things, you know, we looked at the same audits that y'all were presented back before we started this, and y'all are well aware of that. One thing that we talked about over and over was revenue policy, not the line item budget that you as a board give them, but how much they're charging for renting of pavilions or field sponsorships or other revenue avenues that they potentially have. We feel that you guys as a board should take a serious look at that and make sure that those are up to date and being collected appropriately, so that you're not leaving money on the table, basically. As far as the rest of the financial things, with this coming back into the city, is that 3 minutes gone or 3 minutes left?
3 minutes left.
Okay. You know, the city clerk's office, we have full faith and confidence that they will be able to function with those roles. You get and you see under facilities and land use management, we pretty much highlighted all of that because we felt the need that those all need to be addressed. From, again, a maintenance and operation management standards, a preventive maintenance plan, and maintenance personnel assignment procedures. You know, again, making sure that workflow is communicated through the organization to make sure that there is accountability and that tasks are done when need be. And then on the risk management side of things, to make sure that little things are taken care of to limit liability on throughout the park system on some basic maintenance things that need to be handled on the front end. So with that, I'll say that's a quick and dirty rundown of the report. And we as a group actually asked for y'all to move this to this point in the meeting in case y'all wanted to discuss our observations or opinions of specific employee performance and or job performance. So we'll open it up, and you guys feel free to jump in at any point. So if anybody has any general questions about these things, or if y'all want to stick around, we'll be happy to. So.
Are there any questions or comments for Alderman Davis or the members of the committee? Alderman Walker.
Just like to say, first of all, thank you all very much for agreeing to give your time and your efforts into helping us better understand the issues, the strengths and the weaknesses of where we are in our park system. I think this is a great time in the city's history and in the parks system as it is being taken back over by the city to look at how do we improve what's there, and I think this report is going to definitely help us shed a little bit of light on how to do that. So thank you all for your willingness and your service. Now, a question. So the standards that we're talking about here that the report has highlighted, that is those are from those are national park standards that you're using to frame sort of the discussion. Is that accurate?
Correct. And we felt like that was a good place to start with. They are national standards. It wasn't something that this group concocted saying, hey, we want the parks, we think the parks should be this. These are the national standards by the recognized professional association. And we feel that our park system should live up to those standards. And we feel like we can. So that's kind of where we set our bar and wanted to move in that direction.
Alderman Little.
I too want to thank you and the rest of the board for the time and effort and energy you put into it. I know you care about the kids in the city, and the county also use the facilities, and we want to have the top-notch facilities and be the envy that some of the other parks are, and some of the other local cities in the area, Oxford and Tupelo and South Haven, and that have the premier facilities that we have baseball teams traveling to, and envious of those facilities. And I would like to see us step up our game here in the city, and I appreciate the time you took out. Alderman Walker and I went in early July and walked through several of the parks, and just it seemed like there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that and I'm a layman as far as what you need to do in a park, but just walking around and stuff just jumped out at me, and just from recollection, we're allowing vehicles to drive down the parking lot. The edges of the cement are all broken. There's light bulbs out in the bathroom. There's fountains not working. There's exposed decking from wind damage on the roofs. There's rot.
On the board at that time, but I know when Director Mr. Peters took over, Parks and Recreation had a negative $12 in their bank account. And he's in the room. If I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected. And he has definitely fought back from that. In order for those repairs to be made down at Parks and Rec, they don't repair themselves. It has to have money. And I'm not preaching to you. I'm just talking about us as a board. You just happen to be sitting over
Yes,
there.
ma'am.
So again, I'm supportive of Parks and Rec, but I know this, anything takes money nowadays. Mr. Mayor, I yield the floor at this time.
Alderman Little.
And tagging on to that, I know there's 2% money that's available for capital improvements, and as far as Mr. Scrivener has indicated, from the accounting aspect, you could put most all of these things under capital improvements, and we do pay guys to keep the grounds down there and tend to the trees and sweep and blow off, and a lot of just one walkthrough, and the potholes, it's just not getting tended to, in my opinion. And there is money for light bulbs and fixing water fountains and things like that I think would be geared under capital improvement.
Further discussion. Any further discussion? Alderman Carter.
Like the rest of the board, I thank y'all for what you did and the others that are on here. So apparently, kind of leading into this discussion, and this is putting it all out there, but with communication, if there was, let's say you had unlimited authority this fall, what would be, do they currently do any kind of weekly meetings, or is there any kind of just immediate areas of improvement they could work on?
It's my observation, and I think that this would be consensus of the board, is that there's a breakdown of information flow that can come in potentially, okay? We'll use just a little anecdotal example, okay, generically. Let's say that they have a baseball tournament or softball tournament coming in to use the facilities. It's my understanding that you have certain employees that are working with the tournament director and or organizer, yet you have other employees that are actually doing field prep work, and then yet a different employee who does, say, any repairs, if you're trying to get a bleacher repaired and or fence for a backstop repaired or anything. So you've got 3 different silos. And too often what has happened, particularly in some specific cases that we talked about, is that one silo is not talking to the other silo, which leads to potentially bad things. The example that you and I were talked about with wrong pitching mounts, right? Length of rubbers for the girls softball. Start too long. And that's a, you know, an example of fundamental breakdown in, you have a tournament director talking to one person and then information for whatever reason not flowing to the next set of people involved, which is not flowing to the next set of people involved. And while I agree that the parks need more money, okay, if you don't fix those types of issues, then you're just throwing good money after bad. And so I think that is our contention, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to misrepresent y'all's thing. But until you fix those types of things to handle those basic issues, okay? When you talk about a sidewalk being out, how does that workflow, because you ask them, how does the workflow, if somebody makes a complaint, how is it carried through the department? How does it get to the actual person that's supposed to, everybody just kind of looks at you and, you go, I don't know. So until you can fix those basic things as an organization internally, then it's very difficult to really catapult us and go to the next level, which I think all of us want us to be at, so.
Let me ask you this while you're here.
Yes, ma'am.
If my memory serves me, how many sports coordinators do we have there?
We've got one sports coordinator.
At one time, did we have 2 there?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time that we had 2?
Probably 2 years ago when you promoted, well, I don't even know. That would have been y'all's decision.
Just a moment. Mr. Peters, will you please stand? You have one sports coordinator. Who is that sports coordinator that you have, just for public information?
William Colbert.
And he is the only one that you have?
Correct.
So when was the last time that you had 2?
It's been approximately about 2 years.
So in other words, what we're looking at, William is perhaps doing the job of 2 people,
Correct.
but he's getting paid for 1 person.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
And hold up, just 1 second. And William, again, is not in charge of setting out a field.
No.
And if information doesn't get, or for whatever reason is done incorrectly and he doesn't get feedback from it, it doesn't matter if you got 4 sports coordinators, you still have a problem.
Move to go to
That's my
closed session.
point. You know, and that's.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to go into a closed session to determine whether there is a need for an executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Saying none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. At this time, I'll ask the public to clear the premises so the board can begin closed session deliberations. And Recreation Comprehensive Master Plan request for qualifications for professional design services as presented. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Just to say that I think where we are with the park system right now and the discussions that we've had, this report, I think it's time for us to look at our broader park system with a set of professionals that can, I think, help us make some decisions as we move forward. So I think this is timely and it's something that would be well worth our time, especially coupled with the city going through the comprehensive planning process.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Saying none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. A motion to recess is now in order. Motion has been made by Alderman Little to recess. Are we recessing until 5 o'clock or 5:30?
5 o'clock.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to recess until 5 o'clock on Tuesday, August 18th at 5:30. 5 o'clock Tuesday, August 18th, 101 East Lambkin Street at the City Hall courtroom. Alderman Little, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. We stand in recess. If everybody's got time, stop by the Sportsplex for National Night Out.
Take that, Jerry.
What now?
National Night Out is the community police event.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you.
Also, you never know.
Hey, He said that he worked his house.
Was he good, David?
Yeah, so he worked his house. He's known for that. Y'all have a good night now.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mayor. Yep.
Yeah, some returns trickling in
My
about
lawyer's
now.
first fair statement. That's it, I'm gonna go get my lawyer, so bring him on today.
Oh, really? What's the deal?
Well, oh, you cataract.